Hey you guys, it's MJ from All to Love. How are you? I want to thank you all for your recent subscribes, and some of you guys have actually been emailing in with some topic questions, but also just with your like kindness generally, your kind messages of affirmation, kind of just letting me know that you're also going through some heavies. And some of you have sent in donations, which I'm ever so grateful for. And just and like your videos and like just this growing online tribe for me is incredibly refreshing and exciting, and it's my highlight for the day for sure. It's like such a boost. And in fairness, it's been a long time coming because I've been at this YouTube thing for um, coming up to 7 years now, if you can believe it. Just talking about all this weird energy, spiritual healing, and living from the heart. Really simple stuff, but for some reason, super emotional. And I'm very aware of that, even in our spiritual circles and our conscious communities and in our world generally. It's like we want to deny the emotions, and then we call this thing spiritual awakening when we start to tap into the emotional field and feel things, and there's this sort of elixir of coming alive, and it's exciting. And then we have to continue to face our demons, as it were, and we still have to deal with the feels, right? We have to be feeling all this like intensity, and I think there comes a point where we're kind of hoping that's going to end. And I'm somebody who wants to encourage us all that is, I would say anyway, in my awareness, that is very much an old paradigm construct, that we're going to get to this point and be emotionless or just be like this perfectly centered Buddha. And I'm like, that's cool. And there are plenty of people living that kind of existence, and that's more than likely their function. I think, however, for many of us in these times, in this generation, it isn't our function to just go be a monk and meditate all day long. Our function is really to transform our beingness and project into the world a more harmonious world. So if we have a shitty banking system, and if we have shitty operation systems which don't make any sense, like our food distribution and import and export systems are absolutely mentally retarded. And the banking system that one of you guys, Kurt, again, you shared about the debt-based economy, and it's like we've just made this system up out of our like heads, but ultimately from a perspective of lack, from a perspective of separation, right? From a perspective of there's not enough in this world, therefore we should hoard it and like steal from one another and be frightened of one another. And then here we are in this world where there is an apparent sort of endless war cycle where we just talk nonstop about our problems. And even when people do offer effective solutions, we often go, well, yeah, but no, because. And there's so much density around this prominent or dominant thought form that it is just the way it is, like this is just the way things are. And I'm like, says who and since when? Because life has continuously been changing. And certainly when a species is at the point of like extinction, that's usually when some pretty radical evolutionary leaps start to happen, right? So this would be my function, sharing on this channel and pioneering All to Love as a movement of simplicity, where it's like, guys, let's just try to love ourselves and one another. In my experience, the more I love myself, the more I can genuinely show up in a loving condition for other, regardless of the dynamic, right? But that whole self-love piece is a great gateway to our own integration and embodiment of higher and or simply more harmonious and more loving vibrations. And it's all that biblical stuff as well. There is this essence I'm hearing of like the creator, you're the creator loves you. We didn't birth ourselves into existence out of hatred. That kind of birth point experience is something most divine and sacred and just beautiful. Just, the words can often fail to describe the divinity that is within us, right? And the divinity that is the allness of existence. We've we've just been the how I see the kind of story from an expanded perspective is that we just haven't been in the dark ages, and it's part of the trip, it's part of the ride, it's part of the experience of human on earth in this solar system, in this galaxy, right? Is like stretch it. We don't just hold the elastic band, we play with it, we wrap it around, we stretch it apart, we maybe put it over things, you know. It's like I do have this inner sense as a soul, living in a human form, that we do choose the shit. Like, that's what's so fucked up about it. We actually choose the disparity, we choose to pull ourselves, like, how far away can you go from source? Yo, how far away can you stretch from the love that you are? And then depending on what our personal threshold is at any given time in our own soul's expansion journey, then or soul's evolution, soul's growth, right? Then that would dictate how painful the suffering is. That's why I do it too, but I must always remind myself not to compare or contrast. Hence why I stopped watching mainstream media and news agenda specifically, because the pain, so seeing a child starving or seeing war-torn countries, the pain, the visceral pain that I would feel would be so traumatizing. And yet when you start to understand soul's evolution and human conditioning and all this kind of stuff, if it's that soul's choice, their biofeedback resonance connection with their reality is different than mine. Does that make sense to you guys? So like there's a sense of, that's why we don't, now it's not to not have compassion though. And this is where we get into these maybe spiritual bypassing, or where we get to, this is these law of attraction ideas. Hey my Scott, hey Mike, how are you? These law of attraction teachings, or these spiritual bypass teachings, or these hoity-toity spiritual communities can often trigger people because there isn't compassionate action. It's just sitting around and talking about love and light, or talking about all the shitty shit in the world, and but yet not leading with compassion, and not actually shining light, and or addressing, and or just talking about the stuff that's challenging to talk about. And that's often, morning Jonathan, and that's often I think why we're in these times, why we're living in these great awakening times, this mass awakening. It's that it's happening to us as much as it's just happening around us. Again, it's unity, it's one and the same thing. The compassion piece is that it's like we don't have a choice as humans anymore. You know, we either become compassionate for our existence and for one another, or we just can stay on that kind of destructive freight train, right? And here it is for me. It's that same thing of just keep going, because, you know, as for me, on my recollection of my past, as I reflect on that stuff, it's not like when I was 19 years old, was like, okay, so now I'm gonna have a spiritual awakening, and then my life is gonna go totally fucked up and weird. And then, you know, there's no, so what I'm aware of and have been aware of for all of these many years, even the times where I've been like on the street just crying, like looking around at humans being like, what's happening? What is actually going on? Like for real, that happened quite a lot. Especially in my party days and drinking days. I just had no groundedness and no sense of joy. It was just suffering and struggle. But what I've been aware of throughout this journey of mine, or this unique perspective of mine, is that spiritual awakening is usually, and so often, is a spontaneous thing. And I never, you know why? The only reason I call it spiritual awakening is when I was working with my mentor in preparation for publishing and launching the book, and he was doing all this like publicist stuff with me, this PR stuff with me, and he was like, we need a story, we need to know your story. And that, I mean, I just shared honestly, like, this weird shit did happen to me. I did move to BC. I did have these like incredible experiences, which totally shifted my perspective. But I wasn't, at the time, I was just a backpacker that like heard her voice go, you know, go travel. I wasn't aware of like spiritual awakening, intuition, in this same way the collective is now. So I can honestly say that over 17 years, the masses have awoken. Like, there is a huge awakening across the globe taking place. We're just, as the individual entities, having to kind of leap and keep leaping and keep leaping. Hence, again, my transparency on this platform, because I don't want to move forward having anything to lie or hide. I don't want to move forward carrying a bunch of baggage with me. I don't think that's necessarily going to be useful to us. Having the awareness of what's going on energetically, and also having the awareness that never at a point do we have to get to this perfectly stable place. It's that again is a projection, and usually a fairly conformist and limiting projection of the 3D matrix. It's like, so once I have this perfect job, then my life will be fine. We all know in our hearts that's not what it is. It's not about achievement on an external plane at all. It's literally just this centered the only way I can like actually describe it to you guys is that it is tangible, it is visceral. You do know who you are. And the knowing of the who you are is like the forgiving for all the baggage, all the shit, all the patterns, all the programming, all the bullshit of the system, all the bullshit of our parents, all the bullshit of our childhood, blah 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 blah. Looking through, hey Pepe, how are you? Beautiful you. Looking at all of that and just perpetually owning it and transforming it and saying, and in within, digging in and just saying, I got this. And or show me what you got. Like, show me what you got. Living in the unknown is exhilarating like that. You know, when we continue to stop trying to control the external and live from within the heart space and like be the presence that we are. And again, just like our substance abuse or just like our shopping or whatever things we act out upon, every person has a different threshold, right? And so I'm very aware of, like, you know, even in my drinking or drinking, but like the party days, I was always the first one. Like when the group of party people were like, let's get another bag of cocaine. I would just be like, my nose is gonna fall off. I need to go to sleep as well. I'd sneak off and just go to sleep. I don't know if you've ever done those kinds of drugs, but like they kind of like, and then the anxiety sets in. You're like, so, you know, again, in these early 20s, traveling around with this slightly out there weird perspective and whatnot, and like, but trying to fit into the crowds and like drinking and partying and all of this. And I noticed at that time, that my whoop whoop, yay, that my threshold for party was different than, and everyone's was. That was also when I started to realize, oh, there's actually like the cool kids who don't party, but yeah, and I was always a little bit like admiring the kids who never had the inclination to do that or didn't want to do that, and then increasingly so it was for sure. But yeah, like those situations was the beginning of really addressing to me or showing to me that like there is no status quo. There's no, I did cocaine for a week, one night. How does that even make sense? For a week, one night? So you just did it one night and then it kept going? Because I do know, and that was the thing as well, like I had my little threshold for that substance stuff, and then yeah, watching and then oh my gee, like actually connecting with people and finding out that like all these 7 years later, 8 years later, there's people still living the lifestyle, right? And anywho, you guys, as per usual, I ramble on and digress to the max, but somehow I'm sure it's all sort of cohesive and relevant to our journeys, because I love you guys and I know that we're pioneering great things. So well, and this is one of them: compassionate leadership and greater empathy across the board. You know, intuitively, all I'm getting a sense of is a turbulent waters, but like the anchors are deeper than ever, and so like there's a safety and there's a support that the human collective consciousness didn't have an awareness of, and now they're coming into this awareness, which really is the beginning of the emancipation of humanity on this planet, as far as our um, different cyclical patterns go. And that's going right back to a 26,000 year pattern, and then a continuous cycling, right? Yeah, that is. We are the infinite awakening. And then this is now that it's like this. It's like we've fallen into this infinity loop. We don't have to go back into the depth of darkness until that cycle goes again, right? But now we are heading into like this sort of more golden age. There's poles shifting, and we as beings are actually embodying greater harmonic codes, because we're feeling into this more homey feeling of familiarity, but an expanded kind of creatorship perspective, and choosing to see from love, and choosing to see from a place of clarity, which is born out of love, right? Because I am that which I see. And so my diligence with holding the vision for humanity is seeing humans wake up and light up and start to move in the direction of their passions, and start to be clear in their mindscape, and or certainly begin the journey of becoming more aware, becoming aware of our feelings. It's the only way we heal. It's true. In my humble opinion, the only way we heal in these bodies as beings is by awakening and starting to move through the emotional sheaths and fields, because it's in our emotional reverb body that we're picking up on our external, right? And our external world is our projection, so we have to own it all and integrate it into the field that we are. And that, if there's shitty shit's happening out there, then it's a part of us as well. It's what we're, and it's not there's a huge, this is compassion. This is compassion next level. It's that it's not about beating ourselves up for holy shit, what have we created, right? In that regard, we can all just be okay with all the shit. But we know what we know from within the self. We know when we're not living in alignment. We know when we're keeping our mouth quiet when we should be speaking up. We know when we're bending ourselves to please other people. We know the difference now. We know when we're being slaves, and we know when we're being powerful creators. We know when we're living in fear, and we know when we're living in love. We do know, and we can tap that love and choose to walk away from it, knowing the power that it beholds, right? And yet to each their own, everyone in their own time with all this stuff, right? So yeah, I'm getting this in another beautiful way, you guys, like compassion and empathy. And I just like, hey, shout out to the empaths. It's like I am a kind of healing empath, realizing that I'm healing a lifelong imprint of, you're supposed to be narcissistic. Your empathy is a nuisance to the world. And then this is what I mean about having this awareness of like the tidal shifts, because suddenly it's like empathy, and people are talking about this stuff like it's a good thing, and you're like, hey, that's fantastic, and then more people stepping up and rising up, and choosing to step into their power and heal patterns, and look at what they've created in their world and all that kind of stuff. And just at least now, with more of a community of aware empathetic beings, I'm not sure, empathic beings, that at least we have one another to share this perspective with, because it really is helping to bring light to the other, i.e. the narcissistic or the psychopathic, the sociopath. Those different spectrums of deeply disconnected beings that are purely focused on externals. All of that will shape shift the vibrational resonance of that dominant collective, pattern and imprint as well. So the rise of empath and or an awareness of light work and shadow work, empaths working on themselves to embody more and more and more compassion and love. And the more we hang out with other empaths, the more we can reflect are like, the more we can almost just like like release them. That's where the last year and a half has been the absolute cut, the absolute clear out of, I surround myself with other energetically aware people, because the contrast is so obvious immediately in this presence of someone who's either in victimhood or narcissism or wherever. It's all similar, just call it different things. Their drainage, right? Their natural point of attraction is more about what they're gonna get from a situation. So my energy field can almost immediately pick up and or feel the unconscious energy attachments wanting to hook in to get a feeding point. I know that sounds really bizarre, but when you become more and more aware, you can actually feel that, versus the other of hanging out with other honest, empathic, compassionate type givers. I'm like, whoa. And you wonder why one's life expands when you start hanging out with other people who can res with you, right? So that amplifies. And it's not by chance even. Thank you. It's like one of my faves, actually. I think the color is like really pretty, and I bought it yesterday. I was wearing this like white Ralph Lauren turtleneck, and there's this area of London called Brick Lane, and it's got loads of like, well, delicious food, including a place called Canvas Cafe, which is just like, my mouth is starting to water when I'm thinking of their vegan fish and chips and like vegan cakes, like top notch. Thank you. Do you know what's funny about this hair, you leaf, is I just washed it. I'm one of the girls, well, I'm in like the zero waste tribe, aren't I? So I only wash my hair probably about once a week. So by the end of so look, clean hair, by next week, you guys were gonna see the grease-tastic hair. So yeah, I only wash it. So it's a little bit, it's bouncy. It's a little bit bouncy after washing. But thanks, you guys. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you. Yeah, I do actually, like, if you go way back to 2012, I don't know if I've still got this video on it, but like one of my first videos, I have like no maquillage. I'm still super awkward and like free, like just feel like the most like stupid person for even making YouTube. Like I was a completely different person back then, right? But one of my first videos, I just like, I'd probably just done like a yoga sesh and like came back. I had no makeup on. I was still carrying a lot more density. Like I was still hating on myself way more, but I just like, it's like, hey guys, like talking about being the change or something like that, probably. And then I don't know, once I started to get into vlogging, like say by the end of 2012 or maybe like by 2013, I was like, okay, Molly, there's a few people watching these videos. The least you could do is like put a little effort into it. So now this is like my morning fleur. I'm like, self-love beautifications so that my face like pops a little bit more for the viewers on the other side. So guys, this is all for you and for me, because I am a vain woman. I have said this before. And I think a lot of people are, they just don't want to admit it. I don't know. Is that real? Is that, I don't, like, I have no idea what I talk about because I'm just my own little world. But I'm like, yeah, I think sort of not in some weird fucking arrogant shitty way, but just like, you got to love yourself. And like, yeah, I'm vain. It's like, I can sometimes be in a really shits mood and then actually just like spend a little bit of time like putting oil on my face or putting makeup on, and like lo and behold, I'll like end up feeling better because I've just been loving on myself. However, I love myself without makeup as well. That's important to note, especially for the women out there, because never ever should a woman, or man for that matter, feel bad about just their own natural human form. I'm just, yeah, I have vanity. And so I tend to like, oh, hey, my sky, I've gone back and watched your process. Very cool. Yeah, right? It's been hells to the depths of my beings. But again, actually from this very earnest place of like compassion and empathy and just feeling the pain of the world. Self-care. Thank you, Rochelle. Actually, it makes me think, well, but there's I guess I want to expose it rather than try to pretend like there's not some vanity there, because I can feel my own vanity kind of thing. Self-care is awesome. It's your own little way to groom the universe. Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah. I like that perspective actually, cuz yeah, that's kind of that's what it is. There's just these little things you go around and you care for them, and hence I think once you get really, oh, that's a great idea actually, like once you're actually pretty solid at looking after the self, that's like when uni starts to give you more stuff, and maybe more people as well. Vanity is when you must flaunt a specific image. 2244. I love your numerological awareness there, Rochelle. Yeah, I get what you mean. Like, as in, maybe you guys have, or there's probably people out there who like, I don't know, embody vanity in a way that isn't nice at all, or doesn't feel good. I just, maybe I'm aware of that, and so I joke about it, being like, yeah, the material world, we're here, we're living in it. I put makeup on my face every morning because it makes it look a little bit shinier and more like pa, like, because people are used to seeing certain faces. But I'm not ashamed of the non-makeup face kind of thing, you know. I will go out. I Have you guys ever met people that like won't leave the house without putting makeup on and stuff? Yeah, for sure, Rochelle, but it's a continual, at least we can be honest with ourselves about what we're working on and what we're moving through, what we're moving towards. And it's interesting as well, right? Because we're not one half, we're a whole. And so there is perhaps a moving towards that. Yeah, but you're gorgeous, Chica. Oh, by the way, I laughed out loud at your last video, the beginning bit where you're like, "Oh, my hair, I'm still gotta." It cracked me up, basically. Because I bet it looks fine. I'm sure it looks fantastic. And you always look great. Like, I love the look of ya. Well, yeah, but us women, we've been conditioned and we look more colorful with it. So this share was all about compassion and empathy and global paradigm shift, but we're the shift. This is, I could go on and blab and talks forever. Woman, and who cares? There's nothing wrong with that. Um, But that, I don't, isn't that the funny thing? How imprinted we were that our looks or whatevs are supposed to look a certain way. And that's, now we're maturing and waking up and being like, wow, what a bunch of fucking hogwash. Like, we're all just unique expressions. And let's be honest, we're all just attracted to different peeps and different things. I'm a middle-aged lesbian. I love you guys. Me too. I had to keep, because Roots came back. I remembered you changed it from last time I saw your video, and then you came back and were commenting, and then it took me like a few minutes to register. Oh yeah, that's Maz. But I like the YouTube channel name. It does suit you nicely. Okay, so wrapping her up, trying to go ignite. Oh shit! Oh, we're just spraying it out there. Sorry about that, Roots. Um, yeah, that's all I need to say to close this beautiful video live share down with you guys. Is the global paradigm shift is on, and we're it. I know that maybe we thought like some impressive thing was gonna descend, or the UFOs or something, or that like some cataclysm will happen, but I'm like, no, we're just it. How long is this share? I don't know. I don't count the share. I don't ever plan much at all. Hence, like going live at 3, going live at 4. This share is now coming up to 29 minutes. Yesterday's share was like almost an hour, you guys. So I'm back to sharing live, and I'm just digging in, really. I mean, like, now, 29. I don't know. I feel like you're like, there's like a deeper element to that question, but then maybe there isn't. I'm not sure. Like, how long now? It's almost, I know. I don't know how. How do I keep going? I just basically, you guys, look at, like, I feel like I'm blushing. I don't think I actually am, but I had like a little embarrassment moment. I was like, you guys, don't be complimenting me. I just like want to barf in my hands and that happens. Okay. And then I'm hearing Rocky song again. Do do do. So going back to this topic of sharing, you guys, it's that in the legit truth of it, humanity continues to awaken. So all these ripples, right? Nice. Me too. When I on my sky, for sure. I do quite like the rainbow ones and the dragon ones as well. So our brothers and sisters, the lids are still gonna keep popping off. People are not gonna be able to hold the shit together anymore, right? So okay, cool. I know. We go round in circles. But there is a point to this. This is the greater story unfolding in the paradigm shift. So like here we are, and we've like boom, like woken up, and then we start to like distance, right? And then we can see that people are still in the slave mode. They're still in their zombie mode. And then we continue to boom, boom, ramp up and build momentum and keep working on transforming our stuff and like keep visioning these new innovations and these new kind of freedom break moments where we can just like run for it and hit the other one. There's a few physical people in my world manifesting as far as like doing documentation to remove us from the actual enslavement bond system. There's witchy type covens that I'm connected to that can help en masse do like en masse soul revocation. So these are in my awareness anyway, like actual physical things that people can do once they awaken and realize that the whole thing is kind of like a sham and it's all weird, because we know the intensity of once you start awakening, and but as it starts happening more en masse and like people get lifted and stuff. Well, yeah, and we are already, something that I found this morning in meditation was that most of us, if you're connecting to me, we're already in our function. So it's like we're already in our place. Aw, thank you. Thank you, my Sky 5D. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. It means the world to me, because otherwise I'd probably be dead. Jokingly, but like not, because you guys get it. You get so squeezed off that it's like people think you have choices and you're like, well, no. Usually those choices came out of like this sort of desperation or survival, for Rizzle. And yeah, people would have always been like, you're melodramatic. And I'm like, you don't live inside my heart, so shut up. And that's the thing about the empath as well, is like it's like a lifelong of just constantly being told you're too sensitive, you're too much, you're da da da. And secretly, me and my little journey being like, I'm pretty sure actually these feelings are quite relevant to our existence. So I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to actually keep feeling my emotions. I know you said that, Rochelle. Yeah, but Rochelle, you're still in your function. Weird, actually. I'm having a reminder of like, there were still these few little like, shh, shh, shh. It's like these like few locking into placements left. And then once we kind of lock it in, then it's I get kind of bored about like saying that there's some big event happening or some big thing that's gonna start to shift it. That can happen in a lot of our realities. So the online course that I just launched, ULEAF, is called Spirituality Simplified. And it's 8 weeks and it goes into great depths. Actually, one of my favorite bits in Spirituality Simplified is, well, actually I really like the Sasha interview, but the Thomas J interview is legit. Like, this is a natural philosopher who's been on the path for many, many years, basically saying that the entire world as we know it, that we've built up in great egoic progress, is based in false logic, which means all of the scientific inquiry, all of the academia, sort of academic study. And then of course it means psychology and all of that. It's like half the story. So everything that we're projecting out into the field isn't based in reality, in as such as our natural and organic connection to this earth plane, the bioresonance of this plant, this planet, right? And what we're learning is that this kind of holographic matrix is well, just that, a kind of matrix of our own disempowerment. I listen and we just left Kansas. Well, and that's been something that's my life has been teaching me that over the last 3 years because of the types of experiences and encounters I've attracted. And one is my own naivety, but two is, yeah, not feeling people, because there is that. Like, I started to notice that the last 3 years, that actually if I'm really present with people's energy fields, you can tell. And then you can also tell if they're not feeling, if they're completely disconnected, which, and I'm also aware of like anyway, that's probably another share for another day perhaps, because so this is kind of new for me. I can just share, it's fine. But I'm starting to get this like weird sense of non-humans, and I've never had that before. And I'm acutely aware of this is just me like noodling over a thought, because I like really don't necessarily want to anchor any untruth in that regard, but like, or create that. But at the same time, as the awakening continues, I'm aware that these like non-human entities, pretending to be human, or non-natural organic entity form, and or just the divine spark. The being has to have the divine spark. Otherwise, it's like once the mainframe goes bust, these beings just disappear. Yeah, I would say there is some defense, but that's their choice as well. That's like usually when we have cut off a sense, it's to heighten other senses. But no, I wouldn't say that any kind of disability is allows you to avoid the system. However, like some of us, any difference, anything that isn't kind of systematically prized and acceptable, can then shun us, i.e. expel us from that, and or ostracize us from the status quo, which then that embeds us with that sense of alienation, which is how a lot of the new tribal energy is starting to come together, is actually through the disenfranchisement of our world. We've not been able to land, right? We've not been able to properly fit in. Won't affect by the frequency is what gets you regardless of senses. Yeah, precisely. So like it just doesn't, we're just still feeling and sensing, and if sometimes, if anything, like when we can withdraw and close our eyes and shut down the ears, and that's when we can really tune in. So like the people who maybe aren't listening to everything all the time, or with their eyes bugged out looking around them, like maybe they're more capable, or it's just a little bit easier for them to kind of drop into their broader sense awareness. And when I say that, it's like unifying the 5 senses to then create the 6th, 7th, and 8th kind of thing. That's just come out. I don't know if that's relevant to any of you. And or I'm hearing it has something to do with the tortal field. So activate the 8 senses, align the 12 chakras. So this is chakras 7, and then like we could do 8, 9, 10. You know, we could do, or we could do just 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12. One higher up in the 8th portal to like unlock greater cosmic wisdom. But it's staying aligned with toroidal field. 12 chakras open the 13th gate. Thank you, Rochelle. Intuitions, rocking out the niche. So there. So that's actually a thing that I'm hearing about. And that, again, you guys, all this stuff, we don't have to read books about it. We don't necessarily even have to have a tangible intellectual awareness. It's just the senses. Christ consciousness is the 13th gate. So we align the 7 chakras, we light up our hands and our feet, and the 8th, that's the 12th, right? So once we light up the 12 chakras, then we embody the 13th gate into Christ. And then that's how we're attracting and pulling in the resonant connections now. I have a feeling the numbers is relevant. The 13, there's something going on the actual planetary activity with the chakra system of the planets. I'm hearing that some of the chakras on the planets have moved or are moving. So where we think certain certain points are, they've like shifted a bit. Yeah, interesting. None of that matters to our existence though, as far as making sure that our 12 points are lit, and then just vibe with that, just kind of vibe with that and feel that out, right? Moving or opening. What do you mean moving or opening? Tell me more. Oh well, I just heard like, I don't know, but that is part of it, is that they're opening the chakras. So shifting, moving. Oh, well then, but then they must go together. So there must be the movement must be for the opening. And then of course that would be what we're in now. The age of Aquarius, this mass human upliftment. No, it's almost like, so what I'm like intuitively, this is all new to me, by the way. It's all new, but like fun. So what I'm seeing, it's like, you know how, those balls that like the inner circle can move and the outer crust doesn't move with the inner. So I'm sensing that sort of thing. I.e., like, so this is how the Earth's been for a bit, noodling for sure. And then, okay, so a bunch of people are like, oh yeah, the heart center, the heart chakra is at Stonehenge. So say my middle knuckle is Stonehenge, and the heart chakra of Earth has been placed under Stonehenge. But what's happening is that like the inner field of Earth is shifting. So no longer is the heart underneath Stonehenge, or it's not Stonehenge necessarily, but I think it's like somewhere around Glastonbury and I want to say Avalon or something like that. So, and it's not, it's yeah, so it's shifting, and so that's part of, I think, a bit of confusion, but also probably why in the next year or so a bunch of us might be called to move house, to move towns, to move continents, to move like whatever. It's that our energy vortex now has to go somewhere else, and it's just how it is, right? Hey Timo, how are you, bud? So that's new to me, by the way. That's a noodle and a half, but like sometimes this stuff is actually relevant to some of you and to me. Because all of that thing about the movement and the I'm like, oh, actually that does make sense for the next phase of paradigm shift creation. I'm getting messages for you guys, Rochelle. Noodle. Yeah. And I'm getting something about animals now. Pay attention to the animals. Thanks, Rochelle. Pay attention to the animals. Make sure we're drinking enough water. All the self-care stuff. Dig in. The shift, everything's moving. Everything's shifting. And it has been, we know this, but sometimes we understand that the physical is the last. To give us the ultimate kind of direction, or the impetus, or the inspiration or intuition to kind of move. Be careful with water. Why do you say that? Like be careful by the coasts or something? Anyway, Well, you guys, look, I'm nearly at 44 minutes. I really appreciate you guys, and I love, like, you know the score, like when you've worked through loads of stuff, pH levels, add lemon. Okay, thank you. Um yeah, I just like appreciate you guys, and yeah, after all these years, I'm feeling some really positive momentum, and then also just some earth-shattering, like, what is life? But I want to be really loving for everyone. Like this is like heart share, love vibration, vulnerability, like cheese factor cliche. But like last night it was just lying in bed being like, I just literally like just want to be able to like shine the purest love for humanity, to be like, guys, don't worry, don't be afraid, everything is gonna be okay, you have love inside of you, and you are loved, and you deserve to be here, and you deserve to be loved and looked after, and so it's like, just keep believing that all that monstrous energy of our past can now finally be resolved, and that we can rise ourselves into these greater empathic and compassionate beings to just continue to shine light and guide and be a loving example for our brothers and sisters. Rah, rah, rah! Pokemon! King! That's like how I feel sometimes. It was like, shh. Anywho, I think that's it for me, you guys. I love you so much, and I'm so appreciative for you. Have a marvelous day. Boom, 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 boom. Mwah. I will. See how pretty this sweater is, though? Like, it's legit. Look, and it it has this little bouncy thingy or whatever. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, did I finish talking about... I did. I talked about Spirituality Simplified, but in Zenful Zero Waste, so that's Alta Love's first of the 4 that we published, where Katie Finch is your guide, but we also published Zenful Zero Waste, and Zenful Zero Waste is all about Zen... Do I need to describe it? But one of the weeks is all about sustainable fashion. And I have been shopping secondhand and sustainably since like 2011 or 2012. Plus I was never really like much of a shopper anyway. But then my awareness just gave me an excuse to be like, oh, I never have to go to the high street again. I can just go to charity shops and eBay. Sweet. So I shop intuitively, like I eat intuitively, and I'll just like stumble upon a store, try something on, and be like, and then it ends up being really unique because it's not factory produced, right? So sustainable fashion is a win-win for everyone, and so is buying Alta Love products. You can go and buy our sweatshirts. They are new, I'm afraid, but they are made sustainably by a company called Rapa Nui and T-Mill. So obviously we've aligned ourselves with a company that can do it all right with low impact and sustainability. But now I'm going to be working on Alta Vegan Love because I know a bunch of you guys are super keen to go vegan. So you guys watch out for that course launching at the ends of March, early April, just depending on a few things ultimately. But otherwise, just mega heart love vibrashe. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Myself and all the love that this universe can muster is just like shining upon you.